So this is definitely not a question. It's more of a thank you. Um, your Tony speech meant literally the world to me. I'm gonna get a little choked up, but so my last name is Rivera, and my dad had always presented to me that we have to change our last name to get what we want or to get where we want to go in life. And your Tony speech is what inspired me to keep my last name and to be proud of it. And I just really wanted to say thank you.
Thank you so much, Ren. That's so beautiful. I really get that. I mean, I grew up like that too. I think my family in a lot of ways knew that, there'd be challenges that came with that, and they didn't want me to be up against those. Because every parent wants their kid to succeed, but it's at the end of the day, like, I think that this time more than any time is like it's up to us. We have to fight for that, and we have to say, like, I'm just as good no matter what the heck my name is. Like, that should not be the reason that anything stops me. And in fact, is an asset and is so who you are, and not only should it not matter, but it should matter, and you should be proud of it. So I'm thrilled to hear that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
So as a plus size woman in the theater industry, I've like gone through this journey of trying to find body positivity and such. And I was wondering if you had like any situation about like finding yourself and like finding your body confidence in an industry that can be so like choosy when it comes to that. So I was just curious if you had a story or an experience about that.
Yeah, I think it's so funny. I think I felt really self-conscious about how I looked for a long time when I first started in the industry. And so then there was a time like uh, after I had been in New York for maybe like 10 years where I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like I wanna change how I look. I'm gonna diet, I'm gonna like exercise, I'm gonna like really see what I can do. And I got really, really small, and for me at least. And I was like, I made a lot of sacrifices that I didn't really enjoy or think were like always like, super healthy or made me any happier. And then I got Dogfight, and they were like, you need to gain weight. And I was like, okay. so, um, so then I started on that journey, and then I was like, well, no matter what, I'm going to be wrong. So I might as well like be healthy and be happy. And say, if I can keep pushing the industry like more as someone who is able to push boundaries, like because I've been able to do that and allowed to do that, then I'm gonna like be happy in my body and keep trying to get jobs that reflect that, like, you don't have to be size zero to be beautiful, to have value, to be smart, to be wanted. And so now that's kind of like a mission of mine, I'd say. And I can fluctuate as much as I want to, and I just don't. I really believe that, like, there's a lot of doors opening in that direction as well. And you know, you got to decide how you feel good and feel happy, and know that, like, no matter what, someone's going to tell you you're to this or you're to that, and you can either listen and be constantly, confused, or you can say, this is where I feel good right now, and this is where I'm going to be, and just own it.
Yeah,
I hope that's helpful.
it is. Yeah.
I would say every project I work on has a deep effect on me. It's kind of like each one is a baby of mine. Um, I think that um, I would say most recently that carousel really affected me. Just kind of getting to drop in and tell a story like that is hard to hear, hard to look at, but is comes from truth and really getting to dig into that material again and see how relevant it still is, and to discuss faith and if you're bad, are you bad forever, and can people change, and that really has stayed with me and made a real impact on me as a human being and performer, obviously. A lot of it has to do with the material you choose. I mean, you guys are all in cabaret class, which leads me to believe that really have an eye for picking out material that is personal to you and that reflects who you are. Um, I would say one of the lessons I learned early on was bring in the stuff to your audition that like you love to do, that shows who you are, that brings your joy. I had only like one or two audition songs in my book when I came to New York, and it was just stuff I really loved. It was like a random Carole King song and this old like blues song, and I would just like do those everywhere. And sometimes it really worked, and sometimes people were like, "Why are you doing that? We asked for this, and you gave us this." But I was just like, "This is what I have today," and I think that who I am as a performer, what my tastes are, what my values are, that's what I bring into the room with me. And so I think that your choice of material, your choice of how you dress, not being in a jewel tone dress and character shoes, show your style. And that you get such a small amount of time in the room, but if you come in looking like how you are going to look after you're done with the audition and move on with your day, and you try and bring them a little piece of you, then they'll say, "I like that person, I wonder what they would do with this material." I always say, like, I want them to want to have lunch with me on the break. Like, that's my goal, rather than like I want them to see how good I am, or how high I can sing. It's like everyone can sing well in New York. We're all in New York, so that's really my always been my goal.
My question is, how did you go about finding representation? And also, just like a fun question, what's your favorite restaurant in New York?
My initially I got representation actually winning this like singing competition out here in Los Angeles, where I'm from. Um, I won this competition, and there was some agents there, and they brought me in and signed me. I was like 16 or 17, and they were bi-coastal, so I didn't go to college. I just moved straight to New York and started auditioning. Now granted, I was very new to the agency, so like I still had to go out on my own for auditions, as well as they would get me some audition crumbs, but I definitely had to do the kind of the full court press. But yeah, that's kind of how it started. I'm not with them anymore. I've like since moved to a different agency, but yeah, that's kind of how I got started. Um, and my favorite restaurant, I have so many. I guess it would be this little kind of hole in the wall Italian place called the RD Cafe that was by my house. They make really good Italian food, and they also weirdly make amazing Mexican food, which I know is strange, but it's just a great little place that my husband and I used to always go to, order from, really support. I'd say I really like to treat the evening like we're all in my living room, um, making the audience feel at ease, letting them in, telling honest stories, um, bringing joy, really being strategic about if and when I'm gonna take a turn. For me, I want the evening to fly by. I want, I want to really stack like the front end of my cabaret with just joy and ease. And then if I want to have like a deeper moment or I want to lay that in, I've earned that by the end. Or by, I say like, at 11 o'clock Cabaret time, which is, if it starts at 7:45. And, but really it's about, for me, like deciding which parts of my life I want to reveal and how I can do that in a way that's fun so that they feel like they've really gotten to know who I am as a human being. And, that combined with kind of the pacing is for me what Cabaret is, at least what I enjoy about doing my Cabaret.
So I was going to throw in also a big Dogfight fan, by the way. And that's what I was going to ask you about. Because that show can be very like emotionally demanding on the actress playing Rose. I was wondering how you went about like coping with that afterward and during the process, because you kind of get like shit on for an entire like act or so. So I was just wondering how you went about doing that.
It's so interesting because I was doing Godspell, like literally I left Godspell and started Dogfight like the next day. And in Godspell, I got to be this like mage diva and was like, felt like so great and like beautiful and like all powerful. And then to like walk into Dogfight, like I was so excited. I loved the part. I loved the show. I was on fire to do it. And, but I remember like I came in the first day and was kind of like done and, like first day of school clothes and, they always take pictures and I wanted to like, feel good. And Joe Mantello pulled me aside at the end of the day and he said, I think if you can, like, try tomorrow to just come in, like, kind of strip it down. Like, he's like, don't wear anything fancy. Don't put makeup on. Like, just kind of like see what that feels like. And I did. And I was like, oh, this is great. I don't have to make an effort. Awesome. And he was like, good. Like, keep going. And what I kind of figured out is like, he kind of, we went on a journey together where he would kind of check in with me every day. I mean, not only was it such a tough road, but I was, for the most part, every day the only woman in the room. It was all men. The whole creative team was men. All the guys, the women in the show are only in like one scene. They're like barely in it. So I was really there alone a lot. And Joe really recognized that. He really spent time checking in with me almost daily, just to kind of be like, this is really difficult. Are you okay? But I think he also like wanted me to get in touch with that part of myself to feel it. I think I am very proud of who I am. I feel very comfortable in my own skin. And I think he wanted me to like kind of move backward to feeling, to grabbing a piece of how I felt in high school or in moments where I wasn't as secure. So we definitely did that together. And I would say the other thing is we really never rehearsed the play in its entirety until we got in the theater. And he never let me do Pretty Funny. We skipped over it every time. We never did it. And that really helped me be really present for when we did get to go through it. I really got to like, I didn't get like complacent in those feelings. And I didn't have to go there every day for him while I was still trying to learn it and navigate it all. And that made me, when we finally did go through it, I was ready for that. And Pretty Funny to me was always like, I could only do it when I got the full ramp. That's why when people like bring it into auditions, I'm always like, no one wants to watch this. Like, it's completely selfish. It's for the actor, I believe, unless you really get to be on this whole journey with this character and see her joy and see her, it's just like I was talking about with the Cabaret. It's like that moment is so earned by the end of watching this whole journey for this character. But to just, lap it into to be like, okay, we're going to start with Pretty Funny. It's not possible to me. So I think I really got the time to kind of earn that and to be able to kind of navigate her full journey. So it was awesome. I mean, I loved it. I learned more doing that show as an actor than anything I had done before, and maybe anything since. I mean, Joe's just he's I think one of our most treasured actors, and he's such a good director, and he's such a good teacher, and I learned so much about acting from him. So I'm very very grateful that I got to have that time.
That's really beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was your introduction to theater?
Oh, I have an older sister who did theater, like did community theater, and she was in Annie, and I like went to see it. I was like 3 years old, and I was like, "That's for me." And so I think the like a year or 2 years later, they did Sound of Music, and I auditioned, and I got to play Gretel, and that was it. There was no stopping me. I loved it. I was obsessed with it. I bawled my head off when it was over for like weeks. My parents were like, I don't know if she's going to be okay. Because I just loved it so much. And that was just it. They put me in dance. They put me in voice lessons, acting class. I was like, that was all I wanted to do. And it was my reward. Like if I did well in school, then I could go to class after school, and I could do shows if I was being a good girl. And, it was like, that was how my parents controlled me.
Okay, so my question is if you could just talk a little bit about like your in-between jobs and what you did to like survive, because we're all college students
Yes.
and like life, so like,
Totally. Yeah. I worked retail. I worked at the Pottery Barn. And but that didn't last very long. I really hated that job. So I left that job and I got a job at the American Girl doll store in customer service on Fifth Avenue. And I had that job for like 3 years, and they were really awesome to me. They would let me go. I would get regional gigs here and there, and they would let me leave, and I could come back. They were really supportive. I worked with just amazing people. It was really kind of my first time being immersed in like what local New Yorkers were like, who worked there, which I just was obsessed with. And it was really hard, but it got me through. It paid the bills, and those dolls, like, blech. But it was from being someone who like always wanted a doll, like as a little girl, and we could never afford it, to then like being on the other side of it. I'm like, I will never buy my daughter one of those dolls. But yeah, that job really got me through. I was really grateful for it. And then I got my first Broadway show while I was working there, and so I left, and I never worked another retail job after that.
did your family ever like give you a hard time about like not doing what you had like said you wanted to do, or like were they pretty
I
supportive of, like,
think that they knew, my family was really great, and they helped me out. And I will say this too to all of you, like, don't show up to New York with no money. Like, don't do it. Save your money, take 6 months and work before you go, because you have to have a stash of cash before you get out there. It's just, otherwise you will be there to be a waitress and not to be an actor. While yes, like I had to do the same thing, like my parents, I didn't go to college, so there was some money that they had saved for me to use for that. And they were good enough to say, we believe that you're going to really pursue this and we're going to help you. So they helped me the first couple of years, but I still needed to supplement that help. So, but because of that, I worked 30 hours a week, mostly on the weekends, and I was still able to kind of coordinate my schedule to audition. So that, and also like I was in voice lessons, I was in dance, like I was still in class. And so I just think like, if you set yourself up right, you should be able to still kind of be pursuing your dream and support yourself at the same time. And there's a lot, I mean, retail is actually kind of a hard job to do with that. Like, obviously, like being a waiter, catering, being a nanny, like there's a lot of great jobs that are mostly in the afternoon and evening, so you can still have your days to hit up auditions and stuff. It's really cool, obviously, and a bit overwhelming, I would say, because not only are you creating this role, but the writers have their own kind of process. So, while I would say that the hardest part is like not getting attached to anything, because things change constantly when you're developing new work. There's all sorts of new pages, new things thrown at you daily, and so you kind of have to be flexible to say like, okay, we're doing this today, great. We're putting this new song in, we're taking this song out. I loved that song, oh well, goodbye. And this one I don't like as much, but it's here and you love it, so I have to love it too now. So I'd say that is that's the hardest part, is like staying flexible. But obviously, there's great advantages to being able to create something. You get to pick the key it's in. You get to, the blocking is how you felt the blocking should go, versus stepping into something like Wicked, where what Adina wanted to do is kind of what you have to do. Because trust me, I tried to get the keys lowered, but they would not do it for me. While you do have some flexibility for sure over how the role is played, at the end of the day, the light is moving to number 8 and you have to move with it, because it's programmed. So, those are some of the pluses, I would say. I would say to hold on and know to bring yourself into every room, and don't scrutinize what you don't have versus what you have. I would say, instead of asking why me, say why not me. And I would say, make sure you understand that in choosing this life, you need to have other interests and other ways to make money, so that you get to make the choice in what types of acting work and singing work you take. You don't want this to be your only way to make money. You want to be able to do a lot of different things, so that when you want to have a baby, when you don't want to take a certain job because of your values, or because of X, Y, and Z, you're holding out for another job that you really, really want, and that's coming down the pike. You want to be able to do those things. So I didn't really think about all of that and how kind of a life would look in this industry. And that's definitely something I would tell my younger self, because I was just like all theater all the time when I was younger. And so, I've learned and changed, and now have, run 2 different businesses besides doing performing, which brings me so much joy. But yeah, that's something I definitely would have wanted to know. My family is definitely a motivator. My husband, my dog, and because we have a lot of stuff we want to do together. And I would say my students are my motivator right now. I was just telling them this yesterday in class. Getting to still, to kind of, when the world seems like a dumpster fire at times, to get to still come together and share our joy and support each other, and to set goals, and to remind ourselves that like this is what we love, has been so wonderful to me, and has motivated me every day to like say, look, if my students like are still working, then why can't I still work? I enrolled in a major vocal pedagogy course that I'm taking right now, that I have to do right after this, which is like this intense 3-month course. But I was like, I have the time. Let me keep working, and my students wanting to work made me keep wanting to work and keep learning and growing and challenging myself, even in this time that feels so kind of like, what's happening? So that's been, they have helped motivate me to keep moving forward. I guess I would say Wicked just because of the stamina it kind of took to play that role and the demand it took on me personally. You know, because it's a 3 hour kind of marathon, not to mention the hour before getting into the get up and the 45 minutes it takes to get it off and go home. That each time I had to do that was pretty intense. I definitely had to really prepare vocally and body wise to do that role. They have it's pretty cool on the third floor of the theater. There's like a rehearsal studio, and that's where I learned the show up there while the show was happening beneath me. I was like learning it up there, and they also have they have like a treadmill up there, and I would like before while I was learning the role, I would sing. They would play for me, and I would sing while running to kind of get my lungs ready to be able to do that, and my stamina. And so I would do that quite a bit. I had to really change my diet, my sleeping habits. I pretty much was on vocal rest all day until I went into work at night. So it took a beating to my social life. It was a big sacrifice, but I was grateful to do it. But I was also ready for it to be over when it was over. Just the demand for uh, diversity has changed a ton. When I moved to New York, I was really told that if I didn't change my name, I would have a really hard time getting jobs, and that was true. And I think that they were still kind of there was just a very kind of cookie cutter way of looking at actors, and I feel like from being there when I was 18 till now, I've seen so many people write for individuals and want to, the demand from theater audiences is I don't want to see someone with no flaws and who is plastic. I want to see myself reflected, and that's been really exciting. I would also say that has happened a lot in television. I mean, that's the reason I moved to New York in the first place. I mean, I knew I wanted to do Broadway, but I also knew there was definitely no place in TV for someone like me. So I thought, well, on stage, I'm further back. So maybe they'll go for it. But yeah, I mean, that would be that. I'd say that's the biggest way that the business has changed. That people casting and writers and audiences are really looking for unique people to put up on stage, and that has kind of broken down so many barriers for all sorts of different types of artists, and so I'm obviously thrilled about it. I think this kind of wave happening all with the Black Lives Matter movement, all while the pandemic is happening, has been so great because people have really had time. They've been sitting at home and able to really kind of look at where we're at in our country, and I think the theater community has done that too. So I think it's just it's going to further along the telling of all different types of stories. And, I think that casting has gotten more diverse, but I definitely think that through this process, writers, different, writers of color, um, directors, producers, like, I think that is like, that's, I hope, going to be changing. As far as, the pandemic, I think it's just looking at like, how do we, you know, how do we get back in rooms together, which is, we all really want and need. And how do we do that, safely and feeling like we can all sit and enjoy and not be, scared that something is in the air or happening. So, I think it's going to be a bit of a road for us to get there in theater, in TV as well. I mean, just on my show, we're talking about how we're going back to film and all the things that are changing so that we can do that. It's gonna be interesting. I'm just so hopeful that that things can get started back up as soon as possible. But I'm also realistic in the thought that like I don't want to be the first person back in a theater. I want to make sure that like we've got our shit under control. So I do believe that our unions are on it, and we'll make sure that we're doing things safely. It was a road to get there. That from the time they announced the nominations to the Tony Awards is like 6 weeks of just like full court press. There's a million events and cocktail parties and talking to voters and doing little talk shows, and that's all you're expected to do, all of those things, because they say like you have to show for all these things, and you also always have to be in a different outfit that no one has seen and looking your best. And oh, by the way, you still have 8 shows a week, and each voter is going to be at every single performance for the next 6 weeks, so you have to bring your best every day. It's a lot, and it really took everything I had. I was really sick for a lot of it because, of course, you're just like exhausted. And so I'm going to my ENT and she would come to the theater and shoot me up with drugs and get me through. Not drugs, but, steroid, Advil, whatever I needed. And it was intense, but I think getting to that final night, which you have a matinee that day too, the day of the Tonys. So you do your matinee, and then you rush to get ready and you have like an hour to get to Radio City, and by the time I was sitting in the seat and in my dress, I just was like, oh, I've made it. I made it here. Let me really try and enjoy that this is happening, right? And not worry about winning or not winning, because to make it here is huge. I don't even really think I ever like dreamed of winning a Tony. I just think I've been a part of this community for so long, and the thought of that just never really even hit me. I thought I'd be lucky to kind of find my place in the city, because I didn't really know anyone who looked like me and did what I did before I got there. So I think just getting to be seated there with that community was such an honor for me, and so shocking. And the best part was like when they announced like the 5 of our names, and like when they announced my name for that, and like I felt so much love from the house, and I thought, wow, this was enough for me, because I've realized I've gotten to work with so many people that are in this room, so and they appreciate that my work, and that I've been a part of this kind of culture and community. And so that was enough. And then to win was just like, holy shit. And you have 90 seconds to talk, and it's really overwhelming. And when you get up there, it's so big, and you see so many faces, and you want to say the right thing, but I didn't want to write anything down. I just kind of wanted to speak out with my heart. And so, yeah, it was incredible. And then once you win, you get whisked off to do press for the next 3 hours, and you don't know where your husband is or your purse, and you just hope you find them at some point in the night and you reunite. So we did, which was great. And after that, the next morning I woke up and I like had no voice and was so tired, and went back to the doctor and was like, okay, what's our plan? And she was like, I'm pulling you. That is our plan. Like, you made it. Great job. You have to rest. And so, we called my producer, who was great and supportive and helped get me through that whole thing. And, so I had to take a few days off to just kind of let my body heal.
I'm a new fan of Smash. Just watched it for the first time and just wanted to ask you what that experience was like. Because when I saw you, I was like, wow, this woman is amazing. And then today I was like, and I'm also about to speak with her. So I just wanted to know what that whole thing was like.
Yeah, they called and they were like, we wrote you in this episode. So I was like, okay. The producers were big Dogfight fans. And so they had this moment and they were like, let's have Lindsay do it. So I was actually out in LA at that time and got the call and had to kind of rush back. And it was really fun. I had worked with the guys, Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman. We had worked together before on some little things. So I like went to their house and we recorded the thing like really quick, and it was super fun. And, I had known Christian, but it was great to just get to kind of be on set for the day. And obviously like to bask in Angelica Houston's, amazingness was so cool. But yeah, it was really fun. I was wearing my own clothes, and I mean, it was like so easy, but really, really fun. I had a great time. I had so many friends on the show, so I was like so stoked to get to be on it.
Hi, Lindsay. I was just wondering, you said you find lots of other stuff to do besides theater. Is there anything that's completely non-theater? I know you teach and stuff like that, but is there anything like hobbies or anything you have that is just so non-theater, but you're really passionate about doing?
I mean, I love to knit. I love to read. I'm trying to think of what else are my hobbies. I'm trying to learn Spanish and Italian, so that's been really fun for me. And I love to cook. My husband is like an amazing cook. I'd say I call him a chef. And so we love to like shop for, produce and make delicious things. And that's like, I'd say every night we like spend time together doing that, and I really enjoy it. And that's pretty much it. I mean, this has been a great time to kind of like look for hobbies that extend past this. On TV, I mean, there's so many days where I'm like sitting in the chair all day waiting for them to move camera or whatever. I can't really read a book because I have my lines in my head, and I find it's difficult to kind of focus in on something else when I'm like, oh God, what am I supposed to say again? So finding other things like knitting, or doing like studying language like that to me is a little easier. So if anyone has any suggestions, I'm open. Listen, you guys, this is like such a weird time, and we're all trying to navigate it. It's so strange that you guys are all, at the precipice of like starting your career, and now you're like, what's happening? Where's Broadway? How am I, when is anything gonna happen? And I would just say, like, if I could offer any advice, it's like, don't let this kind of like burn your light out. This is a time where we can still learn, we can still work on ourselves. This is a gift of time rather than a curse. Everything will start up again when it can, but use this time, because when things do get back, they're going to be en fuego. And you're going to look back and be like, oh my gosh, I could have worked on my voice during that time. I could have built my book more during that time. I could have worked on my dancing during that time. And now I'm in this call and I'm struggling. And I had a year last year where I could have just really focused on my technique, where no one was beating me because nothing is happening right now. So this is your time. Like, use the time. You can, and by the way, like, if finances are an issue, there is like so much free content. There's a lot at your fingertips, literally, that you can use. But I would just say, please look at this time as a gift, and please know that things will absolutely start up again.